Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to our weekly coach call. And I will kick off with our five pillars that we want to focus on, not all the time, but there's nothing more and nothing less than nutrition, our fitness, our hydration, our sleep, and our mindset. And Scooby drinking water right behind me. Um, so I've been methodically trying to move through our pillars. And what I wanted to talk about tonight was mindset. And I love mindset. I teach a mindset workshop because it's pervasive and it's in everything that we do. Our belief system is the root of every choice, every decision that we make. And when we don't dignify our beliefs, then we sell ourselves short, quite frankly. So I'm not gonna ever tell you that your belief system is wrong, right? Because you wouldn't believe me, right? So, and it doesn't matter what I believe, right? What matters is what each of you believes. What I believe for me, what you believe for you. So, your mindset is your belief system. It's how you approach everything that you do, from work to your family, finances, how you eat, how you take care of your body, how you interact with everybody around you, your interpersonal relationships. It's pervasive. And so a lot of times I get it's like very scary stuff. People don't like the word mindset, but it's very powerful. Um, as an aside, somewhat related, I like to watch comedians because they make me laugh, and it's a good mindset, good mindset activity. And one of the comics I was watching, I was doing a bit on new, what was it, old activities with new words, and mindfulness. And she did this whole bit about, how we didn't have phones, we didn't have constant distractions, 40 years ago. And when you're on the bus going to school, you didn't have a phone, and, there was a whole ecosystem on the bus. And so maybe you're just bored or you're tired. And so you're just watching like a raindrop like drip down the window. And he was like, yeah, there you go. Mindfulness. And he did it like funny, right? But the concept there is that, like, yes, mindfulness is not anything that you need to learn how to do. Well, I shouldn't say that. Mindfulness is something that we need to practice, but it's inherent, right? Just sitting and noticing the details of your environment can help you be mindful. Mindset is sort of in the same room with mindfulness, except that our mindset is more of a attention toward ourself and our belief system. And if we say things like, I think I just put in the newsletter either this week or the week before, like, sometimes I'll hear clients say, like, oh, I went to the doctor and the doctor wants me to weigh X. And, I'm 50 pounds more than X, and the doctor's crazy. I will never weigh X. That's your mindset. You won't. If you continue on with that mindset, you likely will not weigh X. Not because you can't, but it's because you believe that you can't. And when you believe that you cannot do something, you typically don't take the steps forward to try to do it as wholeheartedly as you might if you believe that you can. So believe, the whole chant, like at the games and, all of these things, when we see people do the impossible, it's because they believe that they can. And this is your mindset. Now, I'll talk about the first sort of step in my mindset workshop because it's a good reminder, and it's a good skill to return to if you've fallen out of practice, to just do it. It's very simple. You can do it inside of 1 minute. You can elaborate it to 3 or 5 minutes, whatever you'd like to do, but list out three things that went well. I typically do my journaling in the morning. So when I start my day, I think about what went well the day before. Some people like to do their journaling or reflection at the end of the night. And so it might be the evening and they're reflecting on what has gone well in that particular day. Doesn't matter. The exercise is to train your brain to search and focus on something that has gone well. Now, When I first give people this exercise, they've never done it before. I get very brief answers of like what went well, like, you know, didn't eat the cookie in the break room. Okay, great. That's a win if that's what you're, trying to do. It's not everybody's win, right? Could be a lot of people's win. But what you can then say is if you're like, all right, well, I was really working on, not eating, high sugar or kind of gluten heavy treats that are left in the break room or left on my kitchen counter, and I didn't eat them. And the reason why that is important is because I know that maybe it makes me feel a little bit sluggish, like 40 minutes later. I tend to beat myself up when I cave into the temptation. I'm trying to lose weight, and that is not a nutrient dense food that's going to help me move toward my goal. And I'm just throwing things out there that are like common things that people will typically say in this situation. So you can write down, like, didn't eat the cookie at the break in the break room. But you may also then start to elaborate on, like, why is that important to you, right? Didn't have a fight with my teenager, right? Great, win. Okay. Why is that important to you? Maybe you've had who could imagine having an argument with a teenager? They're so easygoing. Right. So, but maybe there's a particular spell that you're working through and it's been challenging and difficult. And you've found, like your triggers to not become frustrated with your teenager and maybe not say the immediate thought that came into your head as right as you could have been. Right, you resisted that, and you paused and gave it some thought, and you can explore each of those wins. So this week I would ask for everyone to revisit the count your wins exercise and see if you can't elaborate on the why that is an important win for you, right? Because somebody who doesn't even eat cookies, didn't eat the cookie in the break room, is not really a win. They're not, it's not even in their, not even on their on their landscape of things that they're thinking about. So why is it important to you? Okay, try to elaborate on that. You can take 1 minute, right? 1 minute is all I ask. And I had another conversation actually earlier today about, there's multiple reasons for why certain activities are healthy or, promote a good habits, good routine, accountability. And this is also important. So not only is the count your win, asking your brain to search for something that went well, it's asking you to focus on it. It's asking you to be reflective of like why that was important. And sometimes we don't give ourselves the time to think about anything or be self-reflective. So we might come up with an answer like as we're thinking about it, we're like, oh, do I think it's that? When that happens to me, I usually say, well, absolutely. Otherwise, it wouldn't have jumped into my head if that was not true to some extent. So whatever those reasons, excuse me, whatever those reasons are, that come up as you're going through that reflective process might be a little bit of an eye opener for you. Additionally, your brain begins to wire itself a little bit differently when we focus on things that went well. So it is like an exercise. I mean, it is an exercise, but not really like a bicep curl, but similar in the way that if you practice doing a bicep curl, the bicep muscle and all the other stabilizers and good things become stronger. And again, there's more reasons to why you do a bicep curl, not to just be like, oh, it's tank top season. I'm going to have nice, shapely arms. Great. However, also, we are decreasing our risk of injury. Maybe we are making hauling the groceries in from the car a little bit more easy. Maybe we can reach something. Maybe we can hold something for a little bit longer. So there's always these multiple reasons of why we do particular things. So our brain begins to wire a little bit differently. It actually creates new neural tags in the brain, right? Has a lot of plasticity. It's very active, right? It creates all kinds of new connections all the time. When we don't use certain connections, they become weak. But we only need to practice them and they start to strengthen up again. So whether or not the the thing on the other side of that, that neural formation, is it serving or non-serving? It is really what you want to ask yourself. And are you reinforcing the pathway over to that habit? Or are we trying to get away from that? And I'm going to get back to that habit formation momentarily. Or are we trying to establish a new, neural tag with a new neural pathway to go and approach something differently? Now, I mentioned the word habit. That's what I wanted to circle back to, because your brain wants to make everything a habit so it could stick it off into storage, right? So that when you do something, right, there's a cue and then you have a reaction and a behavior, right? So there's like these three steps toward creating a habit. And once your brain has figured out, like, oh, okay, that's the cue. That this is what we do when we get that cue, and this is the outcome, right? Great. Now your brain just sticks it into like walking, right? Nobody's really thinking about walking. Brushing your teeth, driving, your kid to school or driving to work, right? These are all habits that the brain is stuck into storage so it doesn't have to rethink and reinvent the wheel every time you go to perform that activity. Brain loves it, takes way less energy, it's faster, it's efficient, it fine tunes the habit, right? And so again, we have to understand, does that habit serve or not serve what we are trying to do? If it serves us, that's fantastic. Unfortunately, when we're trying to establish new habits, we usually have some other habit that we're trying to get rid of. And so undoing that habit can be, a little bit uncomfortable. So, what we want to try to do is create a habit of self reflection by journaling. We can start with one step, count your wins. So we're creating a habit. We are being mindful. We are being accountable. Who knows if you didn't journal that particular day? Is anybody asking or grilling you outside of me potentially? Right? Like, no, it is something that you do for you, and it is time that you're giving yourself. So there's some self-care involved in taking, even if it's 1 minute, that journaling time. Okay. So we're looking at new neural pathways, new neural tags, new habits, accountability, habit formation, routine, self-care. There's so much that goes on, and I give all of this as if I'm, doing a commercial for it. But I've often heard when I give this, this exercise to people who really are truly the ones that are really struggling with it, the response is typically like, that is the most ridiculous thing. Like, do you not hear me tell you that there are a cascade of miserable and terrible, challenging things that are going on back to back, one after the other, and you want me to sit here and cheerlead myself? And so it is really hard, because that typical brain is focused on the challenge, the misery, the torture, all of the things that are very terrible. And it's going in that pathway. And it's a very, very solid pathway, right? And it's very easy to do lump it on. I call this lump it on in my family. When one thing goes wrong, then we have this, this human behavior that we do, is to then say, like, oh, well, that went wrong. Well, now this day is going to be terrible. Well, how do you know? Just one thing, right? Or later in the day, this big thing goes off and you're like, oh, I just knew it. Like, on top of all these other, challenges that I had today, this also happened, right? So we're doing this lump it on thing. We're just plowing through that neural pathway to negativity and how things are not working out for us. We really want to interrupt that cycle. And this particular exercise forces your brain, if you do it, or it asks your brain, I guess it doesn't force, it asks your brain to think about different things, how they went well, how they impacted you, and sets up a different connection in your brain. So it's being metabolically active in your brain, can give you a fresh approach, right? And when you practice this activity, I have not seen anyone that I've ever given this exercise to, and you guys know that I talk about mindset, and this particular exercise is the number one exercise, a lot. Anybody who has performed this exercise on a regular basis, I have never seen it not improve their mindset. Never, never, not once. And I say that about a lot of things, which is why we have 5 pillars, right? When we talk about, when we focus on nutrition, fitness, hydration, sleep, and mindset, when we focus on those 5 things, and those 5 things only, right? We don't need to get into how many carbs did I have or how much protein did I eat today. Like, potentially those things are important at some point for some people. Okay. But without doing all like, should I be intermittent fasting? Do I go keto? Like all these other details that, like, which observationally, I have spoken to people who have tried fad diets or, fad diet encompasses a lot, but any like trend branded diet, sometimes it'll work with somebody's lifestyle, but sometimes it won't. Okay. But when I see our pillars addressed on a regular basis, baby steps, I've never been like, oh, what happened there? They did all this stuff and it didn't work. Never, not once have I seen that. So I say the same thing to you guys tonight about count your wins. I have never seen it not work if it is practiced on a regular basis. That's it. How long? Different for everybody. I would typically say 3 to 6 months. Okay. So it's not like 3 to 6 hours or 3 to 6 days, right? We're in that whole like we need instant gratification, which is just becoming more and more so. Our attention spans are declining with social media, sound bits, videos, dopamine hits with all of the screens that we look at all the time. And they're designed for that, like that little spinning circle. Ooh, does that like ramp up the call for dopamine, right? Till you get your picture and it loads and you're like, yes, right? It's a dopamine. And there's a reason why. I mean, I'm not saying if your software at work is doing that because it's sluggish, but most things that you load for gaming or entertainment or things like that, they are designed to boost that dopamine. So, what's my message to you guys? Get away from the spinning circles, maybe, but mostly, more importantly, let's not put a time limit on these things. Let's just do them because you're going in the right direction. Okay. So count your wins. 3 things. You could do 4 if you want, but we would need 3 and elaborate. Even if it's one more sentence, maybe even 2, as much self reflection as you feel you have in your particular day, give it to yourself. And you're going to reap so many benefits outside of just the review, right? Which will be positive neurotransmitter setup in the brain, right? When we think about something that went well, we're like, oh my God, that was so great. And as opposed to when something doesn't go well, we're like, oh my God, that was terrible. And when I have those 2 things, the neurotransmitters in my head set up shop. We don't have an emotion out of nowhere. That's actually that little soundboard of neurotransmitters at this level, this level, this level. Tons of variety. Those little, and for those of you who haven't seen me go into detail about the soundboard, it's usually how I describe the brain, the neurotransmitters, and signals in the brain. If you imagine a soundboard with all those little slides up and down, and maybe there's like, I don't know, 75 of those like up and down knobs, and they can all go from like, I don't know, let's call it 1 to 20. And if we have them all at 1, that's one level. And then if we have the first one at 1 and then the rest of them at 2, that's another situation. And then how many combinations is that? So our brains are like little soundboards, and depending on where those levels are, those are usually, one of those is sadness, one of those is joy, one of those is elation, one of those is disappointment. Some of those are frustrating, right? Those are all of those emotions that come up because of the way that the neurotransmitters are released and set up. Okay, and we can shift that. Crazy, amazing, and crazy. Less crazy, more amazing, but attainable. All right. Count your wins this week. I look forward to hearing about all of your positivity and why it's so positive for you. Have a great week, everybody. And if you didn't see my newsletter, I was going to touch on it a little bit today, but it was really nutrition based. So I decided to stick with my schedule. I did talk about the importance of vitamin E and vitamin C as we move into the fall. And we've got tons of seasonal produce out there that are rich in vitamin A and C. Sweet potato, one of my favorite. butternut squash, some of those like orange is a beta carotene. Like flavonols are their families are different colors, right? So we know like beta carotene and vitamin A's are typically orange and reds. We have like cyanides are blue, like in a blueberry or in the skin of an eggplant. Um, so we've got all different compounds in different colors. So choose your vitamin A's and vitamin C's with your orange and red and yellow colors coming into the fall to help with your immune system, with the vitamin C, but also the vitamin A, which living out here on the farm, as it turns out, they don't actually have street lights on these farm roads. So when I leave for work in the morning before the sun comes up, it's pretty ugly. So that might have been the impetus for me writing about vitamin A in the fall as we start to lose sunlight, and vitamin A can help with low light vision. So vitamin A, vitamin C, that's your bonus information for the week. You can check out the article was posted to my LinkedIn and my Facebook if you want some more fantastic information on that. But predominantly be focused on count your wins this week as we cruise into the end of the year. I'm going to be covering a few things and get us prepped to kick off in January with a solid goal plan for the year coming up with a great exercise that I like to do in December. So we're getting there, and have a great week, everybody.